So, let's talk about World War II. It was, without a doubt, the deadliest, most destructive conflict in all of human history. But a war that massive doesn't just happen overnight. It wasn't a single event. It was more like a series of dominoes, each one tipping over and knocking down the next, pushing the world closer and closer to the brink. Today we're going to trace that chain reaction and see exactly how it all began.
And it really all boils down to this one central question. How does one piece of paper, a peace treaty that was supposed to end a war, end up planting the seeds for the next, even more horrific one? Well, the answer is a fascinating and frankly a terrifying story of cause and effect.
And that's really the key, right? There wasn't one single cause, no single moment you can point to and say, that's it, that's where it all went wrong. It was a perfect storm of bad decisions, economic collapse, and some really dangerous ideologies all swirling together, gaining momentum until war was pretty much inevitable.
So our story doesn't start on a battlefield. Nope. It starts at a negotiating table in 1919, with the signing of a peace treaty that was, ironically, anything but peaceful. This was the first, and you could argue, the most important domino to fall.
The real poison pill in this treaty was something called the War Guilt Clause. I mean, just imagine your entire country being officially told this whole catastrophic war, it was all your fault. It wasn't just about ending the fighting, it was about assigning blame. It formally branded Germany as the one and only aggressor, creating this deep, burning sense of national shame.
And the price tag for that guilt? Absolutely staggering. We're talking $33 billion. In today's money, that's over $270 billion. The economic weight of this was so crushing that Germany only made its final payment in 2010. Let that sink in. They were still paying off World War I debt when the iPhone 4 came out. This wasn't a fine, it was designed to break the back of the German economy. And if you want to see the immediate effect, just look at this. To try and pay the bills, the government just printed more and more money, which led to hyperinflation on a scale that is hard to even imagine. By 1923, money was worthless. People were using wheelbarrows full of cash to buy a single loaf of bread. Your life savings? Poof, wiped out overnight. The country was in an absolute economic freefall.
So you have this environment of complete economic chaos, coupled with that feeling of national humiliation. Well, that's a breeding ground for extremism. When people are desperate and angry, they start looking for a strongman, someone who promises easy answers to really complicated problems. And that strongman, of course, was Adolf Hitler. He and his Nazi party were masters of propaganda. They tapped right into that public rage and gave people a target for it. Scapegoats, enemies within, like Jewish people and communists. He promised to rip up the treaty, rebuild the military, and make Germany proud again. And by 1933, he had ridden that wave of anger all the way to absolute power, declaring himself dictator.
But it was never just about restoring Germany's old borders. Hitler had this core, fanatical belief called Lebensraum, which translates to living space. This wasn't some vague political idea. It was a concrete plan to conquer huge swaths of Eastern Europe to make room for a supposedly pure German race. This idea was the engine that would drive all of his future aggression. It was a blueprint for conquest.
Okay, so Hitler is making his ambitions pretty clear. You might be wondering, well, what did the rest of the world do? For years, the major European powers, who were still haunted by the slaughter of World War I, took a very dangerous gamble. It's known as the policy of appeasement. Essentially, they just kept giving Hitler what he wanted, hoping he'd eventually be satisfied and stop. And you can see just how badly that worked out. First, he marches into Austria and annexes it. The world does nothing. Then, later that year, Britain and France literally hand him a piece of Czechoslovakia at the Munich conference. The British Prime Minister even came home declaring he'd secured peace for our time. But just 6 months later, Hitler broke his promise and took the rest of the country. Every time the world backed down, it just made him bolder. So after gobbling up Austria and Czechoslovakia, there was really only one country left standing between Hitler's Germany and his ultimate prize in the East, the Soviet Union. That country was Poland. And invading it would be the final domino, the absolute point of no return.
And what happened next is something nobody saw coming. I mean, Nazi Germany and the Communist Soviet Union, they were sworn mortal enemies. Their ideologies were completely opposed. But in an act of stunning, cynical politics, they signed a secret pact. Why? Simple. They both wanted a piece of Poland. They agreed not to fight each other, and, in secret, planned to slice the country right down the middle. This shocking deal gave Hitler the green light.
And so,
With that deal in his back pocket, the path was clear. On September 1st, 1939, German tanks stormed across the Polish border. The policy of appeasement was officially dead. Britain and France finally drew a line in the sand. They gave Hitler an ultimatum: pull out of Poland or it's war. But by then, Hitler felt unstoppable. He just ignored it. The world was at war.
But this wasn't going to be a slow, grinding repeat of World War I. Oh no. Hitler had a brand new, terrifying military strategy that was all about speed, surprise, and shock. It was called Blitzkrieg.
Blitzkrieg literally means lightning war, and that's exactly what it was. The goal was to hit the enemy with so much concentrated force, so quickly, that they would basically short-circuit. It was designed to cause total chaos and collapse before an army could even figure out what was happening, let alone mount a proper defense.
So here's how it worked, kind of like a three-punch combo. First, bam! Fast-moving panzer tank divisions would smash through the weakest part of the enemy's front line. At the exact same time, the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, would be bombing command posts and supply lines from above. Then, with the enemy reeling and confused, ground troops would pour through the gap, surrounding and destroying them. To keep up this insane pace, German soldiers were even given a performance-enhancing drug called pervitin, which we would recognize today as crystal meth, so they could fight for days on end without sleep.
And the results were just devastatingly effective. Just look at this list. In less than a year, Hitler's Blitzkrieg had completely overrun Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and then, shockingly, France. The speed was something the world had never seen before.
So, by the summer of 1940, the situation looked absolutely dire. With the fall of France, nearly all of continental Europe was under Nazi control. Britain was the only major power left standing against this seemingly unstoppable war machine.
But Britain did not buckle. Its new Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, stood before his people and delivered this incredible, defiant speech, promising that they would fight on no matter what. These words became a rallying cry for a nation and a world on the absolute brink of despair.
Which leaves us right here, on a knife's edge. Hitler is at the absolute peak of his power. The German army seems invincible. So you have to ask yourself, with nearly all of Europe conquered, how on earth could this tide possibly be turned? How could Hitler ever be defeated? Well, that is a story for another time.